I impart discernment, by means of which they attain me. Out of my love for them, I, the divine within them, set a light in them, the radiant lamp of wisdom, thereby dispelling the darkness of their ignorance. Humans striving alone can never lift the spiritual aspirant into divine realms. Many students of yoga make the mistake of thinking that by their willpower alone, exerted through the daily practice of breathing exercises, physical postures, and meditation techniques, they will attain cosmic consciousness. Their approach to the spiritual life is almost as if God were a sort of divine mountain to be conquered in the spirit of mountaineering bravado. That is hardly the spirit in which to approach yoga, the highest of spiritual sciences. Such misguided aspirants fail to realize that the secret of effective yoga practice, like that of any true spiritual practice, is deep love. Plumbing the depths of ego rather than those of the soul, they separate themselves from their fellow man in an attitude of spiritual aloofness and end up drowning in the delusion of pride. The essence of spiritual development always is steadily increasing receptivity to God's light and grace through deep, humble love for the Lord. The goal of yoga practice, then, is simply this: to deepen one's receptivity by stilling the body, mind, and emotions, thereby making oneself more sensitively aware of the movement of divine grace within. As spiritual aspirants, we must open ourselves to receive God in ourselves. The Bhagavad Gita shows us the way. That spiritual aspirant can receive God truly in himself, who practices attachment to him instead of to the world, who lovingly worships him as a means of driving out of the heart all worldly infatuation, who holds fast to an attitude of mental openness and humility, in which soil alone discriminative wisdom or discernment can flourish, who invites God's light into the darkest corners of his being, and who, above all, surrenders to the infinite love. In God's love for us and the power of loving, which that love awakens in us, we can receive the grace by which alone our souls can know God. So it's such a beautiful reading from the Gita. I was thinking how in our teachings and in many teachings from the East, we talk about lifting the energy up the spine to the point between the eyebrows, don't we? We're going to be starting our Art and Science of Raja Yoga course. It's our 14-class flagship class that we offer at the temple. All the exercises, for those that have done that, you know we start by learning the energization exercises. We do hatha yoga together. We learn how to meditate. We're always talking about lifting the energy up to the point between the eyebrows. This is where we send our love. We do healing prayers. We're visualizing people there. We send our love through that point. If that's where we do that, then the heart is where we receive, right? There's a lot of talk about the heart and love. If we were to visualize the heart like a glass bowl, and say it's filled with rice. We used this analogy in our earlier service, and say the rice represents all those thoughts, habits, karma, all those things that hold us back from feeling that love. Or maybe it fills that bowl so much, which represents our heart, that nothing else can come in. How do we empty that bowl out? It's interesting, there's talked about all the meditation practices, yoga, but as Diva mentioned earlier, it's interesting that we have the affirmation on work tied in with this topic. I was reminded of a man that was applying for a job. I think it was in the retail world, and he had no experience at all in retail. And the person that was interviewing him said to him, you know, for somebody who has no experience in retail, you're really asking for a lot of money. And the applicant applies, well, when you don't know what you're doing, the work is a lot harder. When I first moved from that, somebody did ask, I'll tell my secret, what's shared in this chapel stays here, so maybe
you want me to pause?
somebody was asking me that. You have to type in, the key is clean, clean Sunday school jokes. I have to do Sunday school jokes. So anyway, the combination of all those gets you some really lovely jokes. You can share at a Sunday service or an intimate gathering. But I was remembering, again, when I moved to Ananda over 20 years ago, I expected the emphasis to be on meditation, on just that practice. And I expected to hear meditate, 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 meditate. What I learned right away was meditate, serve. Meditate, serve, meditate, serve. For those that have been around Ananda, you know that we do a lot of service. And why is that? Is it for the organization? Is it for somebody else? It may seem like that. Sometimes we have what we call a seva day. Seva means service in Sanskrit. We have a service day to help somebody move. Is it really for that person to help them move? Yeah, maybe on an hour level. But what happens when we go and help somebody? It's been so fun to have these snow days here because you can see people reaching out to each other, right? We're not engaged in our usual daily activities, and it's been so fun to watch myself just step out of my box and, oh, this is about helping somebody else. This is about expanding the heart. Because what happens when you serve, when you do something for somebody else? Your heart expands. You feel good, right? A little energy rises. And so we have this affirmation on work, and the affirmation's beautiful because it's training us to not think of work as, I'm going to work now. I thought like that for years. I had the typical 9-to-5 job in the city. And in this affirmation, really asked to take that a step further. Is it what we're doing in our job to bring in income, but also what are we doing in the day-to-day moments? Are we always bringing that consciousness of service? And what happens then as a result of doing that? Do we feel that openness of the heart? And as we talked in our earlier service, it's so important when we first come to the path. We need to open our hearts and feel for that love. It comes down to just love. You know, here we have this beautiful reading. It's about love. All these techniques, the techniques are important. We're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We learn the techniques and we take the art and science of Raja Yoga. But all is an opportunity. We don't stop there. We take it a step further so that we could feel that love, so we could open our hearts through the practices. The discipline brings a grace by doing the practice of meditation. If we were to not do it and say, well, love is all around me, I'm okay. No, we have to do the discipline. We have to show up. Again, we talk a lot about the equation for the spiritual path. It's 25% our effort, but we have to do 100% of our effort. It's so important. We have to show up. As Diva said in the earlier service, it's a dynamic service that we do. We don't just show up, yeah, throw the rice in, let everything go. To offer it up. What? Standing nice and tall and with energy. It takes energy to be on the path. That's why one of the first techniques we learn is the energization exercises. They're Yogananda's, bless you, they're Yogananda's unique contribution to science. So we come to the path with energy. And we can do our meditation with energy. And again, with energy, we're opening the heart. We're always lifting it, lifting the energy up to the point between the eyebrows, the point of divine contact. Okay? So when we stand, when we sit to meditate, we take, if we can, while our back is away from the back of the chair, roll the shoulders back, heart is open. When Swami Kriyananda was alive, he passed away almost a year ago, you would see him walking when he was a younger man, as he became more frail at the end. You know, his body was taking over him, but for many years he just walked like that, heart open, like that, always. And whatever came at him, there's so many stories and we have so many books. He's experienced it all on a physical level. His temple, the temple burning down, anything you can think of. Heart was always open, always there to receive that receptivity. Okay, this has happened. What is God wanting to bring through my life? And so, I don't know, when Diva and I talked about our topic this morning, we said this is Ananda's topic, you know, service. This is, and it's something that we're all really good at. And I know for me, it's always a reminder, I'm doing this service for a deeper purpose. I'm not doing this service for somebody else or even for me. I'm doing this so that I could feel God's presence more deeply in my life. So, anyway, Diva will share too, because it's such a fun topic. But thank you all.
I'm going to take where she went, and I'm actually going to revert it back to, it actually is very selfish. Our service is, and she even pointed at it, service is joy. The thing that we're looking for, part of the problem that we create for ourselves on the spiritual path is we make it about something it's not about. We make it about all the superficial things, all the disciplines, all the externals. And it's simply about us finding the joy that we've always been looking for and living in it. It's easy to trivialize that, and you can always follow your joy, follow your bliss, which can become, just another excuse for self-indulgence. But all of us, we're looking for an underlying and enduring experience of joy and wholeness. Something that can't be taken away by circumstance. Think about that. Think about if you had the access to joy, that no matter what was going on, it was indelible. It was untouched. It didn't matter whether things came or things left. It didn't matter whether temples burned down. It didn't matter whether you were sick or old or lonely. I mean, none of the superficial things could touch it. What if that was the case? Because that's the gift that God would give us through these great masters. That's what would happen as a result of living the right way, living in spirit. And that's what you see in all great souls. Desmond Tutu, who's a great saint, and the Dalai Lama, who everybody knows about, were sitting together at a conference a few years back up in Seattle. And they were just talking very casually. They were at the head table of this banquet. And they were just enjoying each other, laughing and chatting. And all of a sudden, the Dalai Lama nudged Desmond Tutu and said, "We've got to behave now, the cameras are on us." And they kind of straightened up and kind of became more formal. It's joy, it's light, it's fun, it's free, it's everything we've been seeking. And we come to service, we come to the path because we know there's something more than what we're currently experiencing. And we come and we walk into the room, we start studying, we take the art and science of Raja Yoga, and then, things don't necessarily change. You're going to walk out of here today. Are you going to walk out of here different than you walked in? Are you? Because if you're not, why the hell are you here? Why waste your time? The masters come to give us a radical departure from our normal experience, to waken within us everything that we've always sought. But there's one problem. We have to cooperate. We have to cooperate with what they would have us do. What's the old saying? If you always think what you always thought, you'll always get what you always got. If we keep on doing the same things we've always been doing, guess what the experience of life is going to be? So what they do is they come and they say, okay, so this is how life really works, gang. And if you listen more and more closely, you'll learn even more and more subtle understandings of how life really works. And the joy you're looking for and the love you're looking for and everything you're looking for will be yours. Let's do this together. We go, oh, dude, like, wow, really? Yeah, I'll do anything but that. Right? I'll do anything but that. I'm not going to do that. I remember how often the Bible, our masters, Swamiji, they talk about, and the Bible even says, God's ways are not our ways. The things that we would do, that we think will bring us happiness, typically don't, or we'd already be liberated masters who already be filled with that joy and that freedom. So we have to assume that what we have to do is outside of our normal comfort zone in our box, the things that we think are going to work. I remember discovering one day, as a young man, that my life, I could do anything that I wanted to do. I'd done a lot of things. And each time I found if I put out enough energy, was listened to what was needed, I could accomplish virtually anything. And then I realized there was not a damn thing worth accomplishing in itself. There was nothing that was going to, I could be a doctor, so what? I could be, I could be anything. And it just didn't really matter in itself. And it was frustrating. I finally came to Ananda because I thought, well, maybe finding God is where it's at. And I'd read the autobiography of a yogi, and I realized that these people did these things. You know, they meditated together on a daily basis, and then they tried to live in tune with God all day long. That would be a wonderful experiment. Maybe that will work. And I came, and immediately God took apart my life that I had, and I had the choice all along the way to either cut and run, or to say, well, maybe he knows what he's doing, maybe this is what I really need to get what I've asked for. And so, he really dismantled my life. I mean, it just went from, we don't come to the path typically at the peak of our worldly powers when everything's working perfectly, right? We're pretty distracted at that point. We usually come to the path when we realize that even if it's working perfectly, it's not enough, or it isn't really working anymore because we don't have the heart to really give it what is needed. So anyway, I came there, and my life was doing okay because I hadn't really had the enthusiasm to really master anything at that point. And then he just tore it apart until it was really not working at all. And he was married and had a little girl. He broke up the marriage. I was the only kind of employment that was available at the village that would pay anything more than like $2 and something cents an hour. Working for Ananda itself was being a carpenter. I just tested the work, and even that was like $4.50 or $5 an hour, and trying to now serve 2 households and pay dues and everything with virtually nothing. But again, I thought, I can cut and run, I know where that leads, or I can stay with this. And just see, day by day, I'll just keep showing up. I kept showing up and kept showing up, kept showing up. Within a year and a half of building at the village, all the work dried up. If you're a builder, you know how this works. Every so often, there's just nothing that's going to pay you anything. And the guy who was kind of leading the guild at that point, he had some friends in the spiritual group down in Santa Cruz, and he got the job for the guild to build their temple. It was Pure Land Partnership in Santa Cruz. It was a beautiful building. It was an octagon, just really inspired building. And he said, do you want to come along? Do you want to be part of the team that goes down there? We're just going to take our sleeping bags, we're going to take our spiritual books, we're going to take our tools, and we're going to take the plans. And we're going to get a little cabin, a little house by the beach, and it's going to be a war party. We're just going to go, we're going to build this and just deepen ourselves in, and it's going to be all about work and attunement. And I said, well, I would. There's no work, I can't do anything here, but I got my daughter. I got my little family over here, and I'm already not living with her. How am I going to take care of her? She's 4 years old now. How am I going to take care of her this far away? It's 5.5 hours away from here. I mean, there was no way it made sense. Absolutely none. But I prayed about it, and I thought, this is what's in front of me. This is what's being given. This is what I've been invited to do. It makes absolutely no sense, but it feels like I should probably cooperate, even though there's nothing in me that resonates with this. I don't like the work. B, I didn't like the work. I hated the work. B, it's far away. I can't do the family dharma. It's all, but nothing else, is offered. I prayed, so I said, okay. And I went and I told this little 3-year-old, I said, honey, I'm not going to be around so much. I'll come back as often as I can. How do you say that to a kid? Within a week, I swear to God, within a week of being down there, her mother had moved her down to a place an hour away. Had nothing to do with me. If I had stayed, I would have been 5 hours away. The entire time I was there, we had one of the greatest periods of our entire life because I said yes. I would go up and pick her up. We had weekends together. We played at the coast. I mean, it was just this unbelievable period of time. At the end of the project, I returned back to the village. Within 2 weeks, they had moved back to the village again. Nothing to do with me. God knows what he's doing with us. When we say yes, he has a chance to give us the things that are there. It was professionally a fabulous time, a huge time of growth and expansion. It was personally a huge time of expansion and growth. My family, what there was to serve was enriched by this. It became a part of the lore of my life. And some of the things that we did there, I mean, we did some stuff on that project that were unheard of. We built the roof on the side of this huge thing and craned it up in a given day. We had huge challenges. And we just met them all along the way. And so it became part of the lore of my life. We think we know how it's supposed to work. We are so certain. And yet we look at our lives and we're not satisfied. Attunement is the willingness to listen to God's guidance. In the last service, what we do is we talk about, I seek purification by the grace of God. Purification is letting go of our own commitments to life, how we think it's supposed to work, so that how it really works can be born in us, can be expressed through us. And we kneel and we say, I seek purification by the grace of God, because if we knew how it worked, we'd already be free. By the grace of God, I will cooperate. And the minister responds saying, the Master says, open your heart to me and I will enter and take charge of your life. Open your heart and I will enter and take charge of your life. I'm going to take you places you don't think you want to go. But if you ride along, I promise you, you'll be everything you want. Now here's something, we're going to have a little fun, because receptivity is the key. We have to listen with our hearts. We have to listen with stillness. And if you're a musician, this will be especially poignant, but if you're not, we're going to demonstrate something. There's a funny thing. Attunement is the capacity to vibrate at the same wavelength as something else. Okay? To harmonize so perfectly that there is no separation between what you're doing or what's happening and what the other thing is doing and happening. Identical. And it produces beauty. It yields power. It yields harmony. It's a great thing. In music, you've got vibration. Everything vibrates. You've got vibration. And if things are far enough apart, if you've got two storylines running, they can be very much in harmony and be completely different. But when you've got two instruments, two singers, two things trying to express the same thing, what you find is, as these two things grow closer together, you go from something that can be beautifully harmonious, but running different lines. As they come together, what you start to get is increasing dissonance. Until all of a sudden it just pops and they're identical. But just off, you get this remarkable discord and pain. So we're going to have a couple of musicians come up and demonstrate something for us, because this is just way too much fun. We're going to give you a graphic example of just how this really feels. Beautiful. But different.
Sounds like singing before. Sorry.
I'm not sure why God made it that way. You would think that the closer you got, the better it would sound until you finally hit it. But I think it's because it's a guiding light for us, especially as disciples and devotees of truth. You have to remember that discipleship is never to pictures, or even to images or individuals that perfectly transmit the light of God. It's always discipleship to the light of God, to the truth of how life is created. And I think it was created this way, I think it was made this way because when life is designed to fulfill itself in self-realization, in the awareness and awakening of God's presence inside. And I think it's designed this way because when we come on the path, we make huge effort to experience and realize what's true. And tremendous things happen. But then what happens over time, and there's a great line in India, this is a true saying, that when you bathe in the Ganges, in the river of life, when you bathe in there, all your sins are washed away. But when you get out of the Ganges, they're waiting on the banks there and they jump back on you. Okay? And that's what happens on the path. We come because we know life doesn't work. we start to do the things of the path, and man, does it really work, and it feels so good. And then we go, yeah, but I really remember liking that and doing these other things. And so we start to get a little bit out of tune. The Master says, open your heart, and I will enter and take charge of your life. Well, we start thinking, well, maybe I don't want him to take charge of my life. Maybe I want to do it my way. Maybe I know what's important. Maybe I know how family's supposed to be, or how my job's supposed to be, or how it should work. And we start to reassert. And because of this particular phenomenon that's woven into even the vibration of the cosmos expressed through music, you see that as you start to get off even a little bit, it's painful. It's really painful. Listen for that. Feel for that in your heart. When you start to feel constriction, you start to feel a disharmonic, pay attention, because it's God telling you, you're not in tune anymore. You want to, and it's easy to make a really fine adjustment at that point and get right back into the flow. Right back in tune. And in that flow of joy and light. But the farther you get, the less noticeable it is, until finally you're just doing something else and it looks real nice and stuff, but you're not gonna get the experience out of life that you were looking for. Work is how, I was caught up in ecstasy. It was a day sanctified by God, in deep inner communion. God will show us the truths of heaven, the truths that all seeking him should know. How the soul made to live in freedom can reclaim its eternal right. How the night, born of our delusion, can be fired, blazing with his light. We go into deep meditation, we go into the stillness and find his presence. But unless we're so deeply awakened already that we can stay in that stillness, when we come out, we open our eyes, and if we open our eyes, the way we stay expanded, the way we stay connected to the cosmos and to each other, and to life itself, is allowing that energy to flow through us. And the more constantly we do it, the less trapped we become, the more we stay in service. Swami has a great line, service is joy. The more we're just 24 hours a day in service, we're just doing whatever's next, and not counting the cost. If it's in front of us, we do it. We find that everything becomes beautiful. We do it with everything we have. I will do my work thinking of thee, Lord. I offer thee the best that is in me. The very best that is in me. Because that's the power of God flowing through us. And then we stay in tune. And when we shirk a little bit, or we constrict a little bit, or we get I wonder what I get out of this, you can feel that disharmonic showing up. And oh, is it painful? You ignore it. A friend of mine used to say, ignore that little voice long enough, it'll go away. If you ignore it long enough, it'll go away. But you wonder, you wake up 20 years later wondering, what the hell happened? What happened? Where's that joy I was seeking that I could taste, I could feel? How did I lose it? Didn't pay attention to that disharmonic. You stopped serving, you got self-involved. Oh, I know how it's supposed to be. That couldn't possibly be what's mine to do. We are blessed beyond measure. Think of all the possibilities for experience of life on this planet. There are virtually none that are richer than the kind of opportunity and gifts we have. But if we're going to not lose them, if we're going to have them awaken within us the indelible gift of joy,